The WAFB Podcast Network is sponsored by Neighbors Federal Credit Union.
Hey, good morning, Jacques. How are you?
I'm doing outstanding. I'm talking to Garth Brooks. Entering his second year as the LSU head football coach.
It was the only way I could get a foot in the door.
Joined by the icon, Kim Mulkey. Hey, Coach, great to see you.
Jacques Talk is sponsored by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp and Couillon's Cajun Barbecue.
It is my great pleasure right now to be joined by one of the greatest interns in WAFB sports history. Hunt Palmer. Yeah, in case you did not know, before Hunt became a well-known name on 104.5 ESPN radio and Eagle 98.1, he wasn't we don't make our interns grunts here. We let them do productive things. We're not sending them for coffee or having them, carry things to throw out in the dumpster and whatnot. But the summer of 2009, 15 years, Jesus.
That's depressing. That is really depressing. It was not depressing to be here in the summer of 2009. It was really fun because LSU obviously won the national championship in baseball, and I got a ton of experience with you and Steve and the whole crew. But it's depressing that was 15 years ago. Wow,
15 years. Yeah, it goes by like that. I remember stupid things. You know what I remember most about LSU's national championship celebration at Ellick Box? That was the day Michael Jackson died.
I was here. I didn't know that was the same day, but I remember being here when Michael Jackson died. Yeah, that's
Charles Holmes, a photographer at the time. He was looking at his phone, which 15 years ago, Twitter and everything wasn't as up and running. But he was like, "Michael Jackson died," and that's what I remember. But I mean, that's not all I remember. But obviously, that was a big thing that day. And then it took until 2023. Before Paul Skeens and Dylan Cruz delivered the next one.
And it took until 2024 for me to come back in the building. It's the first time I've been back since then. But I'm thrilled to be here.
Real funny, real quick. LSU's playing UCLA this week. When LSU played UCLA in 2021, was that the first time those two teams ever played?
It was.
First ever meeting. So I was over in Pasadena, and I ran into Hunt's dad. Real nice guy. And we started talking, and I kind of joke. I said, Hunt Palmer, just another intern who has bypassed me in their career. And he just kind of said, yeah, how about that?
I don't think he knew you. Did he know who you were?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
you must have caught him pregame because he obviously was not in a good mood after the game.
Yes, no, it was definitely before the game. Because, 2021, we've seen this story before. LSU fans, the tens and thousands, make a voyage to a city to start the year with tons of enthusiasm. They get a few pops in them. We're going to kick their butt. We're going to win big. And that was a day in which Coach O had an interaction with a UCLA fan before the game. Everyone was calling him a legacy, a national, a legend, and all this stuff. And by the third quarter, it was no longer funny, and LSU was getting punched in the mouth.
I mean, that was not competitive at all. I mean, LSU just got dominated that day by UCLA, by Zach Charbonnet and Chip Kelly and that whole offense. And it was, I don't know if that was the beginning of the end, or if the COVID year was the beginning of the end, or if Kentucky later on that year was the beginning of the end. But somewhere at that point, it became apparent that was not gonna work out. And that UCLA deal, I still think as LSU fans, you watch LSU play Kentucky, LSU play UCLA, and there's an arrogance that would come to you naturally going, I got 3 national championships here, and we're getting pushed around by these guys, and that was definitely the case. I don't think we're in for a repeat this weekend.
No. Well, taking a look at UCLA, they wobbled their way past Hawaii, barely won. Last week, Indiana, who I believe is on the up and up, they're getting better, but still, UCLA at home in the Rose Bowl gets beat, was it 42-13 by Indiana?
Did you see what happened to Hawaii after UCLA snuck by them?
I did not.
They went to Sam Houston and got annihilated. So it's not, things are not all sunny. Well, the weather's probably sunny in Westwood, but things around the football program are not good with UCLA right now.
I saw they announced an attendance of 47,000 for that game, and so I said it was probably like 27,000 people were there.
I mean, I've never gotten over the fact that when LSU went to UCLA, there was a story written that made waves on the internet that UCLA was offering free tickets to that game to any high schooler in California. I don't even know how that's possible, but that's an indication of how little interest there is out there in UCLA football. You know how many high schoolers are in California? They don't all fit in the Rose Bowl, but they didn't have any problem promising tickets to them. So it's just not a place that's going to be very easy to win because people just don't care.
Yeah, and not to just go off on story time, but in 2010, the year after LSU won the national championship, LSU baseball got shipped out there.
I remember your piece before. I watched your package before the regional. It was at a farmer's market in right field.
Yeah, it was an eye-opening experience, in which in Los Angeles there were a lot of things to do out there, and college baseball is probably 999 on the list of things out there. And when LSU hosts a regional, they have the practice that's open to the fans, and usually 400, 500 people show up. UCLA's practicing, there's not a single person in the stands. Not a girlfriend, not a father, a mother, no one. No one's watching them. There was a farmer's market, as you said. They're selling fruits and vegetables over the left field wall. And I think when UCLA beat LSU in that marble game on the Saturday night, I got the Sunday newspaper. It's like on page 15 of the sports page. It's buried.
And that UCLA team had Garrett Cole and Trevor Bauer, who have been Cy Young winners in Major League Baseball. Pretty good team.
Correct. Jim Hawthorne and Bill Franquez called the game like at a picnic table outside of the press box because the press box was so small they couldn't even fit them in there. They're probably not even used to a visiting team bringing a radio crew.
No. Absolutely not.
Jim's out. Well, this is absolutely ridiculous. Who
hit the walk-off home run on the walk-off double for LSU on Friday?
It shows you I have not been resting enough because I knew this off the top of my head.
Trey Watkins,
yeah. Bottom of the 10th, 11th, something like that,
off the right field wall, near the farmer's market, right by the produce stand, right there.
Yeah. They win that game, and you're like, all right, here's the magic from 09 carrying over.
They got Renato on the mound.
Yeah, and then Matty Ott didn't pitch because Maneri was mad at him, some things going on. All right, I don't want to go too far on the storyline, but that's some UCLA stuff for you from back in the day. I remember there was no Uber back then. Taxi, I asked him to bring me to Jackie Robinson Stadium. He looked at me like I was from Mars. Like he had no idea what I was talking about. Jackie Robinson Stadium. Eventually we made it there. And real quick, so we get there, and Maneri's standing there, and Maneri goes, "You found the park okay?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Too bad it costs a $75 cab ride." He goes, "Well, too bad you spent $75 on the cab ride. You could have bought this park instead."
Paul.
So there were portalettes. Like the visiting team had one portalette outside the dugout. The home team had two. So that just goes to show.
And they won a national championship a couple years later.
That's right. But you need facilities, right? Had some pretty palm trees out there in California. So LSU football. How do we feel about this team right now through 3 games? They've played 2 games against comparable competition. They kind of blew it there against USC in Las Vegas. And then this past weekend, I have to say, it did kind of feel like one of those Les Miles games where all this crazy stuff goes on and, they missed a field goal. We win. Kind of, exhale of relief there, 36-33 in Columbia.
I feel personally like this is a team that's capable. It's a team that's going to be they can beat somebody on a given Saturday. It's not a championship level team in my estimation. I think they're too deficient at multiple spots on the defense. They don't have championship level players at defensive tackle, and I think the secondary is still a massive question mark. I was encouraged by the secondary's play against USC, the first USC, Southern Cal. They were contesting plays, and that was an improvement over last year where they didn't contest anything. But they still don't have the dudes that LSU generally has when they put a great product on the field. And I think they're still going to have to address that in recruiting. So the offense, the skill players, the quarterback, the stadium, which is going to be involved in a lot of their biggest games, give them a chance to beat Ole Miss or to beat Alabama or to beat Oklahoma or to go to A&M and win. I don't think the roster as constituted gives them a chance to win enough of those games to be relevant at the end. We'll see if I'm wrong, but that's the way I feel about it right now.
Well, I don't want to talk out of both sides of my mouth, but before the year, the big talk was the defensive line and if they were going to be a disaster or not. And a lot of the time, I feel like they're pretty solid. And then it's like the old saying, well, besides that, Miss Lincoln, how was the play?
Yes.
And they're talking about, well, if we didn't give up those 2 or 3 70-yard touchdown runs, we're pretty good defense. Fletcher Mackel, you know Fletcher.
I do.
From New Orleans, WDSU. He called me after the Nichols game. He was like, dude, what's the big fat white guy doing running for a 70-yard touchdown against LSU?
Guggenheim?
Yeah, Colin Guggenheim right through the center of the LSU defense for a long touchdown. So there's no doubt they are better than they were a year ago, more aggressive. They're forcing some turnovers. They only have one interception. That's a Zy Alexander pick this past week, but they've recovered 3 fumbles. We've seen some Savion Jones in the first game against the Trojans was very good, and then Braden Swinson named the defensive lineman of the week this past week for 3 quarterback sacks and forcing a fumble. Those are edge guys, though, right?
Right.
And so Jacoby and Guillory out for the year. Can they hold up on the inside?
Look, they're going to be disruptive. If I would have told you entering the game on Saturday, look, they're going to make 9 tackles for loss. They'll have 5 sacks. They'll force 2 fumbles in the backfield. Like, you'd go, oh, my gosh, that's incredible. Like, that's a dominating performance from the defense. And then you kind of peel back and you go, okay, well, you gave up the 2 huge runs of over 65 yards, and you let Lenora Sellers kind of go to work and go right down the field, right out of the chute as the quarterback. And then he got hurt, and they put Ashford in the game, and Ashford can't throw. They didn't have any interest in throwing the football. They abandoned that until they absolutely had to throw it late. And you still gave up a lot of yards and 33 points to a team that played half the game with a backup quarterback and that didn't really do much offensively in a game against Old Dominion. So there are mixed reviews. You can manipulate the numbers in this narratives however you want to. If you want me to tell you how much better they're getting or try to convince you of that, I could probably do it. If you want me to tell you that they're a disaster, I could probably do that too. The truth is in the middle. They're not a complete disaster, but they're not a dominant defensive unit, and that's what you've got to have to compete against the best teams in the country.
If I'm South Carolina, I'm kicking myself over the fact that they just had to hit Garrett Nussmeier on that second interception.
Yeah.
Because if they don't touch him, Garrett Nussmeier's not making that tackle, and it's going to be, if they kick the extra point, a 40-29 game with, I don't know what it was, 4 or 5 minutes left to go in the game, and LSU's really facing an uphill battle at that point. But they hit him. Some argument about whether or not that should have been a penalty or not, but it was.
It was one of those cases where, and you do obviously a Saturday night deal, and then you obviously have a Monday show. Sometimes my post-game show right after the show on the network is the exact same as my Monday show. I feel the same. I think the same. I say the same thing. I focus on the same things. Sometimes I flip. On Saturday, having watched the game in a bar where we were broadcasting the shows from, with like not as good a game watching experience as the press box is with statistics and all that kind of stuff, I said that was a really stupid play by that kid from South Carolina to hit him and to be selfish and to take a shot at the quarterback when that's not helping you win and you're just doing that for you. And that's what I said on my post-game show. And then I went back on Sunday and I rewatched it a couple times and I took a look at it again, and I came back on Monday on my show on ESPN and I said, I don't think I would have even thrown a flag. He just pushed him. Like, it wasn't like he didn't target him. He didn't hit him when he wasn't looking. He didn't launch and right. Deck him. He used his forearms and arms and shoved him in what kind of felt like a block to me. But Nussmeier got laid out, and he laid on the ground. And then when a quarterback does that, the flags just start raining in, and that was the case. So if you're LSU, you'll absolutely take it, but I don't know if it was necessarily earned.
Yeah, and the first pick six, you could say that the penalty caused the interception because I guess they yanked him.
That was a horse collar. That was the correct call. That was not a foul last year. Last year, you could do that to the quarterback in the pocket. The horse collar only applied to everything outside of that. But they changed the rule saying if a quarterback is in the pocket and you do pull him down from the back, that's a horse collar foul. And that was by the letter of the law, a horse collar.
The latest and greatest for LSU, true freshman Caden Durham rushes for nearly 100 yards in the game. Great play call by Joe Sloan in the first half. They're 3rd and 9 at the South Carolina 26. Everyone's thinking run. Pop them with a little draw play, and Durham goes into the end zone from 26 yards. I was a little, surprised, but I don't know why a few LSU fans were upset with Brian Kelly because he didn't anoint Caden Durham the number one back at a press conference. I don't think there's really any reason to do that. Actions speak louder than words. A year ago, I don't think he ever said Logan Diggs is the man, but actions speak louder, and Logan Diggs got all the carries.
Yes.
He kind of took that thing over. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen here, but let's just see how many carries he gets against UCLA.
Now, we both make a living with the help of sound bites. They're important to what we do, to the product that we create. We add color to them and obviously have comments on them. But I have long said since before I was in media and now even in media, like, I just don't really care what the coach says. What does he do? What does he do? Yeah. I don't care if Paul Maneri wants to say this play has to be made better. I don't care if Les Miles straight up lies to the media about whether or not his center is available for the game. Like, I don't care how you approach things. I've covered and supported and looked and watched coaches that do it both ways. It really doesn't matter to me. I don't care if Jay Johnson wants to announce his starting pitcher 90 minutes before the game or Tuesday. I don't really care. And I don't really care if Brian Kelly says that Caden Durham's the number one back or not. I just who's getting the ball when you're trying to beat UCLA, and that's what you're getting at. And I think that Caden Durham will get the ball a good bit against UCLA.
Yeah, and he's a true freshman, and I don't know anything about his makeup or maturity. I'm assuming from what I've heard, he's pretty grounded and mature and whatnot. But then, there's always some danger in anointing and praising a true freshman too much.
When Leonard hit the Heisman Trophy after a touchdown run against Sam Houston. Which at the time was egregious. But now they use that in LSU uses that in their highlight videos and before
stuff
the
like
game.
that.
Yeah,
because I guess that was the only time he did it. And certainly in 2015, the following year, he was trucking towards at least being a finalist until Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and running into a brick wall for 3 hours. But
I was in the upper deck for that one. Not great. And then we got back to the hotel in Meridian, Mississippi, and there was a huge sinkhole.
Sinkhole, I remember.
And they had no water. So we had been in the car since like 6 in the morning in the rain in Tuscaloosa. You remember it rained that day, sweating outside in the bars, then standing outside for the entire game, then go to the hotel, and you can't take a shower, really brush your teeth, thought a bottle of water. It was like 4 guys in a hotel room. It was a bad scene.
I think right before that game started, we were going live outside the stadium. I think that was that crazy Ole Miss Arkansas.
That sounds right. Yes,
where the guy threw the ball over the shoulder and Ole Miss lost. Right.
Yes, that's their one chance to go to Atlanta, and they lost.
So Alabama, I don't know if that really played a factor in the game, but all the fans were charged up. Okay, Ole Miss lost. Now it's in our hands to beat LSU.
I think the LSU offensive game plan had Alabama plenty charged up.
You hear stories. I heard stories of they would practice things at practice, more elaborate things. And then Les would say, I think we can run it right at them, and Frank Wilson would be like, oh, okay, here we go.
Here we go.
So I guess the holes on the field from where you were sitting, they were just as small as they were, up close.
Yeah,
there was nowhere for Leonard to
nowhere
run
to go
that night. So now on the offensive side of the ball, I think Garrett has done a very nice job. You're missing the dynamic of a quarterback who can take off and scramble. In Jaden Daniels' case, 80 yards against Florida last year in Tiger Stadium. But Garrett did make one of those kind of old Garrett mistakes this past week. He threw it right to the guy, the one we just talked about.
Right. And that to me was less about being a gunslinger and trying to fit it in a window. I think he just misread it, and that's what Herb Street said on the television call was like, I just don't think he saw that guy going under. And that, I've never played quarterback in the red zone in front of 80,000 people against South Carolina, so I can't quite relate to that. But I didn't think that was a poor decision or just an arrogant, gunslinging throw. I thought it was just a misread, and that's bound to happen. And we got to keep in mind, he started 4 games. He started 4 games in his collegiate career. Jaden Daniels was in his 5th year starting games last year. It's just a different world.
No doubt. And I think this was the first time Garrett started on the road.
On the road, yes. He had the neutral site game in the bowl, neutral site against SC, and then that was his first one on the road. Now, I thought he handled himself well, and especially considering the fact that they got after him for the first time in his college career. I don't think there was much getting after him with Wisconsin last year, and USC's defense was improved, but it wasn't getting a lot of pressure. He hadn't faced a sack until the game against South Carolina, and there was pressure on him, and he stood in there to his credit. And honestly, I mean, he hadn't had to do that in his career, really, deal with a lot of pressure. I mean, a little bit in the Georgia. I'm not talking about like pressure intensity. I'm talking about actual pass rush coming at him. There wasn't a ton of that against Georgia or Alabama in those crazy spots. LSU was down a ton, and you're just winging it. This was a different situation for him than practice where guys can't hit him, and he stood in there, took some hits, and delivered some really good throws.
It was a tremendous crowd. I've been here at Channel 9 23 years. I'd never been to Williams-Brice Stadium. 2008, I did not go. That was the last time LSU played over there. You were there?
I was there. Took the student bus trip.
Jarrett Lee?
Jarrett Lee was the quarterback, yeah.
Charles Scott, I think, scored the game winner.
He did. There was a controversial play where the official got in the way and like basically tackled Steven Garcia. the quarterback, and he fell down when he had a lane to run. The only thing I really remember for that game that was of consequence was the cockaboose outside their train. It's incredible. They hollowed out all these train cars and turned them into like little living room / bars. And I don't know how I got in. My buddy knew somebody. We got in there, and it was quite enjoyable. One of my favorite SEC tailgating experiences.
Michael Bonnet, LSU Sports Information Director, told us in 2003 when LSU went over there, that was when they broke out the freshman running backs.
Yes,
Justin
Broussard
Vincent and Ali Broussard. And I hope Michael doesn't mind me telling this, but after the game, he suggested to Saban that those two guys be made available to the media. And he said Saban eviscerated me.
Yeah.
Just tore me
no chance
piece to piece, tore me into pieces by even suggesting
that would be deviating from the process. There's a certain way things have to be done, and just because they scored some touchdowns, they don't get to talk. That's not how things are done. It has to be streamlined. I don't want freshmen talking to the media, all right? I mean, that's the way we do things here, all right? I think that year Michael Clayton and Justin Vincent would eventually talk. They were freshmen. I think they were forced to. Like SEC championship, maybe JV was the MVP, so they put him. He had to go up there. But I think Michael Clayton, he trusted him. He was mature enough to handle it. And Marcus Spears was not a freshman. He was not. He was a junior on that team. Yeah. He came back for the 04 season. Again, he was on the team that beat Oregon State. Wasn't very good. Right. I remember we got a little bit of video of Marcus Spears catching passes at tight end. I think he caught 3 or 4 passes early in his career when he played tight end for LSU. Chris Hilton has not played a down yet. That's disappointing to me. Know his family well. Great family, great people. Covered him at Zachary early in August when we were out there sweating out 15 pounds a day at practice. He looked great in that number 3 jersey, and the fact that he has not played a down so far is just kind of ugh. And I don't think you can cross him off. He looked really good in camp. He made some plays down the field. You know what his strength is. It's speed, and he's always had that. But he's worked really, really hard to become a complete receiver. And if you remember, he was in the same signing class as Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. And he was higher rated coming out of high school than both of those guys. They were both first-round picks. They're both scoring touchdowns in the NFL early on. And he's their type of talent level. He's different because he's more of a speed guy, but he's fine-tuned his game a little bit. I think he can be a difference maker when he's healthy. It's just a matter of when that is. And it's an interesting spot in the schedule here because there's really no need to rush. Right. UCLA is a 3-touchdown dog this weekend. Then you've got South Alabama, who you'll be another 3-touchdown favorite against. And then you've got a bye week before Ole Miss. So when is he ready? When do you want to get him out there for some reps? We'll just have to see. But I do think he can help. I mean, he looked great in August. Yeah. Good point. No, the meat of the schedule is coming up. The big games in Tiger Stadium are coming up, and we'll eventually see him back on the field. In the passing game, Kyron Lacey so far, 17 catches, 222 yards, 5 touchdowns. I think that the surprise to me, I mean, not to insult him, but Aaron Anderson, the fact he's played the role he's played so far, because in camp, Brian Kelly, when asked about the wide receivers, he pointed to the 3 of Kyron Lacey, Chris Hilton, and C.J. Daniels, and C.J. Daniels has done some great things as well. But Aaron Anderson, I think last year, 12 catches, 59 yards total, no touchdowns. He was hurt and whatever. This year he's already got 15 catches, 223 yards, and a touchdown. He had a big, I don't think LSU scored on it. That was when they, second half, he caught the 44-yarder, yes. I think, and they went in that T formation where they put Gabe Relaford in there. They didn't score. But anyway, he has done well, Aaron Anderson. No doubt. And that's a guy who was a really, really high thought of recruit. You're coming out of Carr, Nick Saban and Alabama come in and take him out, and he goes to Tuscaloosa, and he got hurt. He didn't play. And he came back, and everybody thought, okay, well, they were terrible at punt returner last year. He's a punt returner. He'll be an electrifying playmaker for them. They can add him to that receiving core. They'll be stacked. And he went back there for the first punt against Florida State, and he muffed it. And then he took a kickoff return out of the end zone and didn't look very explosive. And basically we never saw him again. I mean, for lack of a better term, he played against Grambling a little bit. But what I was told about Aaron Anderson is that it wasn't that he was hurt last year. He just took some time to understand what they were trying to do with the offense. And he was thinking a lot and wasn't reacting, and it just didn't click for him. Something happened in the spring and into the summer where he figured out where he's supposed to be. Well, now you see that quickness, that elusiveness, and he's not just, as you mentioned, kind of a screen player. They get him out on the bubble screen and use his quickness. He's short and shifty. They used him to stretch the field twice against South Carolina. Big 44-yarder, as you mentioned, where he ran a really good route and Nussmeier dropped it in the bucket, and he had another one where Nussmeier hit him over the linebacker in front of the safeties for a nice catch over the middle of the field. So I think they can use him in the jet sweep game. They can use him in the screen game, but he's showing he can get down the field a little bit as well, and I think that's encouraging for LSU because I think they're going to need to throw it against some really good teams.
Yeah, because – look, the other running backs just haven't gotten a whole lot of yardage and not much yardage outside of Durham's game. Josh Williams and Caleb Jackson. Caleb, I think we expected more. I think we expect he was going to be breaking some tackles and breaking some big runs. And, your longest run as a team against Nichols was 12 yards. And I understand putting guys in the box and all that, but it seems like LSU should have a longer run than 12 yards against Nichols.
Yeah, as far as Caleb goes, I mean, the skill set is very obvious. He's big and he's strong and he's very fast. He is built for those Les Miles offenses that toss the ball to the backs, that hand it to the backs out of the I formation, that get going downhill to get some speed built up. And he hasn't been able to do that. When you do the read option and the quarterback takes the ball from a standstill and then there's not really a crease, he can't get going. And so it's just not built for his style. That's why you saw the more shifty Caden Durham kind of find his way to the outside, bouncing things out. And I still think Caleb Jackson's a good back, but the style of runs that they're running right now, I don't know if it suits his skill set.
Yeah, good point. One of my questions to Coach Kelly on Monday was about Mason Taylor, and I feel like he has – and it seems like when LSU's kind of in a tough spot and they need a first down or in a rut, it seems like he's made a lot of key catches for them this year. He's tied for the team lead in catches right now with Kyron Lacey, 17 catches, and he's got a touchdown. So he's done I think he only had, he might have only 34, 35 catches last year, so he's on his way to having a lot more this year. He's averaging about 6 catches a game so far.
He just broke Richard Dixon's record for the most catches ever by an LSU tight end, so he's the record holder there. There were a few things that were not certain when Brian Kelly came to Baton Rouge. How does he recruit Louisiana? I don't know. Can he win a national championship? I don't know. Can he compete in the SEC? I don't know. One thing that's not a question is whether or not he was going to prioritize the tight end position, because at Notre Dame and Cincinnati, they were a factory, just churning them out. And obviously we know here in Baton Rouge for 15 years, the tight end was a third tackle. And that's just what it was. They were going to block and they were going to run the ball, and that was going to be it.
Dylan Gordon.
Chase Claymore. Just line them up. So that was going to be for sure when Brian Kelly got here. And the tight end room was empty when he got here. Cole Taylor had just thrown a shoe in Gainesville and transferred off to West Virginia. And basically all they had left was a 3-star kid from South Florida, Mason Taylor, whose dad was really good. But what do you have there? Yeah. And he was forced to the field because they didn't have anybody. Jack Mashburn was playing tight end for him. He was a high school quarterback.
There you go.
And so you throw him out there. He has the moment against Alabama, but he's been rock solid for 3 years. And I think this will probably be his last year in Baton Rouge. I think he's an NFL tight end.
Yeah. I still remember covering the Music City Bowl when LSU played Brian Kelly and Notre Dame. And I think Deshaun Smith caught like 5 or 6 passes for 70 yards. It's like, look, the tight end.
This is it.
They can do it. Next year, didn't throw to him.
Nothing.
I think he might have had 5 catches the entire year the next year. It's like,
there were a few in that. D'Angelo Peterson, they tried to get the ball to a little bit, but not a lot. And that was pretty much it. I mean, after Dixon, it was the deep freeze for the tight ends.
My boy, Logan Stokes.
Yeah, Ole Miss.
1 catch, 1 yard, 1 touchdown for his career. But it's a moment that a lot of people will remember. 10-7 against third-ranked Ole Miss in Tiger Stadium.
Came in there undefeated, and it's going to be it was a similar scene 2 years ago. It's going to be a similar scene this year when Ole Miss comes in riding really, really high. But yeah, that drive. The thing I'll remember about that drive that you're referencing was not only the play action throw to Logan Stokes, but Kenny Hilliard chucked a guy out of bounds and then kept running down the sidelines for a big play.
Didn't they run the ball like 14 straight times or something on the drive?
Of course they did. Why would you even ask? Of course they ran it 14 straight times.
Les Miles is, dreaming of that drive and
block him up, baby. Hat on a hat.
Super Bowl when the Ravens played the 49ers in New Orleans when Beyonce and the lights went out and all that. I got down there and I was trying to find local angles and trying to, get something for the local news. And there wasn't much. I think Curtis Taylor, Brandon's brother, was on the 49ers maybe.
At one point he was. At that point he was?
But I don't think he was on the practice squad or something. I think Ricky Jean-Francois was on the 49ers too. There weren't a whole lot of local angles. Yeah. But anyway, Jim Harbaugh, I'm like in a scrum, and he's up on these podiums, and I said, Coach, what do you remember from working with Les Miles? And because they had worked together at some point. I just wanted Jim Harbaugh's opinion of Les Miles. And he goes, well, first day we sat down, he said, Jim, you need to get you a big 220-pound running back. And then you need to get you a big fullback. And you need to line up in that I formation. You're just going to run that football. And I was like,
that's the soundbite I was looking for. Thank you, Janelle. I mean, to be a fly on the wall with Les Miles and Jim Harbaugh having a conversation, those two guys are interesting characters.
Yeah, they're definitely both guys like to wear khaki pants. I think
get Harbaugh a glass of milk. Apparently, that's what he drinks, and it's
I like milk too.
I think it's a heavy dose of milk for the Harbaugh crew.
Real quick, UCLA. Ethan Garbers is their quarterback. He was a Washington transfer. He only threw for 137 yards last week. He ran 7 times for 21 yards. He did not throw a touchdown. He fumbled on the first play. There was something wild happened.
I was watching that yesterday. They played Hawaii in week 0 and they had a bye week. So they had an open date, came back for their Big Ten opener, 2 weeks to prepare. I mean, how many times do you run the first 5-7 plays that you're prepping for I don't know, an open date? And the quarterback takes a snap, turns around, bangs into the running back, the ball's on the ground, and they give up a fumble, and it goes right in for a touchdown. They're down 14-0 like that. So that's the UCLA team that's coming in here.
Chip Kelly, how many times do you think Chip Kelly's been called Brian Kelly and Brian Kelly's been called Chip Kelly?
Yes.
I think I heard a promo on the radio the other day. Some guy goes, Chip Kelly and the LSU Tigers prepare for.
Hopefully it wasn't our radio.
Yeah, no, definitely not. It was not Moscona, Gordy. It was somebody else. One of those New Orleans stations.
Uh-huh.
And when I was driving back from the airport after the USC game, some guy, he was a fill-in, national radio show. He goes, I just don't see Brian Kelly making it to year 4 at LSU. Just don't see him making it to year 4.
That's intelligent.
And my question is, are you familiar with the contract?
Yes. Do you have personally $65 million that you would like to hand over? That's the thing. And that's what frustrates me a little bit in the line of work that we're in. I mean, I've got Twitter and we've got a chat on our shows that people are interactive with. And you get to a certain point with everybody, I guess, other than Skip, maybe, even though Charles Handegriff would argue with that they say, like, every time you lose, fire the coach, fire the coach, fire the coach. And it's just a waste of oxygen. It's a waste of time for anyone in Louisiana to say fire the coach at any point in the next 3 years. At any point. Like, that is not going to happen. Louisiana and the Boosters are not going to fork over $60 million for a coach that's winning 9 games. It's just not going to happen. So if you are one of the people who is listening to and watching this, and you sit there, and if they lose to UCLA or if they get beat by 30 by Ole Miss, and you go, they got to fire Brian Kelly, well, you're just wasting your time because it's not going to happen.
Especially when the AD has hired the guy.
Yeah, well,
as opposed to, I don't think Scott Woodward shed as many tears when he had to boot Ed Ogeron because he didn't hire him. And
right.
I guess when the second, I'd heard things from that side of the Ed Ogeron fence that, they didn't get a fair shake. And some people may still argue that they didn't. But, I was at that Texas Bowl and saw the direction the thing was going, and they had to make a change. But it's still fascinating to look back on that the ultimate college football team came together, and then it all went away, and then a year and a half later, the coach was fired.
It was amazing to watch. You look at what happened at Ole Miss and Mississippi State in baseball the last couple of years. You could make a little bit of a parallel, but it was something over that 24 months.
So Chip Kelly, he just bolted on UCLA like in February to become the new offensive coordinator at Ohio State.
Correct.
Deshaun Foster is the new head coach. And look, humanity, I believe we should treat each other well and everything. He went to that press conference at that media day, and he wasn't prepared. And
which was just so odd to me. It's just, I realize I'm in media and I do talk in front of a microphone for 2 hours a day, but like, it's just not that hard to get up there and when you know that it's coming. That day is coming and say, hey, I'm Coach Foster, fired up to be at UCLA, my alma mater. It's been a huge part of my life, and I'm honored to be the head coach here. We're excited to enter the Big Ten Conference, and we've got a good football team. We're excited for it. Who's got questions? Like, you don't have to give a 5-minute speech.
Right. And
he got up there and just panicked. It was bizarre to me.
He played 6 years in the NFL. He played for the Carolina Panthers. So as Saints fans, we saw him twice a year and had 3,500 yards rushing as a pro and 1,100 yards receiving. So he had a nice run in the NFL. T.J. Harden is their running back. He had 12 carries, 48 yards last week. He had 827 yards rushing last year and 8 scores. So I guess that's their running game. But they rushed for less than 100 in this last game. So they didn't have much pop on offense.
No. And I found this out a week ago. So if you don't know, I don't think it's a big deal. But I will put you on the spot because I can. It's my show, right? Do you know who their offensive coordinator is? I found out a week ago.
It's not Jake Peets, is it?
It's not.
Who?
Eric Bieniemy.
That's right.
Who was under Andy Reid and was getting every head coach interview job across the NFL and couldn't get it, so he wanted to spread his wings and leave Andy Reid and Mahomes, which, if you got Andy Reid and Mahomes, that's a pretty cushy spot to call plays. He went to Washington. That staff kind of fell apart, and now he's come out to UCLA. I don't know what to make of Eric Bieniemy as an offensive coordinator. I'm sure he's pretty good, but that's just crazy we thought for years, literally, that he would be a head coach somewhere in the NFL, and now he's calling plays for a team that is probably going to finish last in the Pac-12.
ESPN Primetime, one of my favorite show growing up, watching Chris Berman and Tom Jackson do the highlights back when you couldn't watch them on your phone,
right.
And that was one of Chris Berman's great nicknames. Eric Sleeping with Bieniemy when he was a player in the NFL. But, that is his career just seemed like he was destined for – I don't want to say better than what he's got, but
no, I don't think he's that old. But you wouldn't have thought at this point that that's where he would be 2 years ago. That's when he was winning Super Bowls with Kansas City.
You talk about the Saints, so I thought we'll finish with them. You're from Shreveport.
I am,
which is a very interesting city when it comes to the Saints. Now, I've heard from my sportscasting friends who have worked there over the years, on Sunday when they would do their sportscast, if they lead with the Saints, they get calls and emails and complaints that they should have led with the Cowboys. And if they lead with the Cowboys, they get calls and emails and complaints that they should have led with the Saints. So Shreveport, 2.5 hours away from Dallas.
Oh, Dallas, yeah, 2.5, yeah.
So it's always been an interesting dynamic there when it comes to the NFL.
Yes, I grew up in a household that loved the Cowboys. My dad was a big Cowboys fan in the 60s before the Saints came around. And then my dad holds a lot of grudges. And when the Saints were putting bags of their heads in the 90s and the Cowboys were winning Super Bowls, the Saints fans in Shreveport wanted the Shreveport Fox affiliate to put the Saints on instead of the Cowboys. And my dad was like, they suck and the Cowboys are awesome. We want to watch the Cowboys. So now he despises the Saints.
Really?
And I grew up in that household, in that environment with the same feelings. We listened to Buddy D after they lost and laugh, and that was kind of what we did on Sunday afternoons. And when I got down here for college and the Saints were good, I was like, I'm really wasting a lot of energy pulling against the Saints. I really don't care that much. And as time has gone on, and now I'm married, my wife's a big Saints fan from New Orleans, like, I want the Saints to win. Now, when I'm in Tiger Stadium, and I don't hide from this on my show, I cover the team and I sit in the press box and I write stories and talk on the radio or do the postgame or whatever. I'm a huge LSU fan. I want LSU to win. I'm never going to hide from that. I'm never going to run from that. It just is what it is. And my heart rate is a bajillion when LSU's playing. When I go to the Superdome and I'm watching the Saints, it's none. It just is what it is. I hope they win. Yeah. But the last time I went to a Saints game, they were playing the 49ers for a chance to get home field advantage in 2019. It was a huge game, and San Francisco came in there and won. I was far more concerned with the selection show that I watched on the TV in the Dome than I was the outcome of that game. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
But that said, I'm pretty excited about the Saints right now.
Yeah. Well, this is the least I've been around the team in a long time because they did training camp out in California. And look, to be honest, all summer it's been probably the most lukewarm excitement before a Saints season.
Boring.
Vegas had him 7 wins.
Yeah.
It felt like, I've never felt like this before, but it just felt like this entire fan base was just ready to boo their quarterback and boo their coach. When the beginning of the year, optimism and hope is supposed to spring eternal, and we can do it. The whole thing is flipped in 2 weeks. And so Derek Carr, and you talk about, like in the past, they talk about Derek Carr was empty yardage and he was a stat machine and stuff. And I think this proves it. Not that he was, an empty stat machine, but when you throw in for 350 and 400, chances are you fell behind 35-7 and you're racking up a bunch of yardage that's not going to matter. He's only averaging 221 yards per game passing in these 2 games, but he's hit some big ones over the top and they're running the ball. I heard you on your show. The Saints 180, 190 per game rushing.
That's the two totals, 180 and 190. 180 in the opener against Carolina, 190 against Dallas.
And they haven't broken a run longer than 20, I heard you say.
They have not broken a run. It's just consistently churning out 6, 7, 10. It's been clinical what they have done. And it's just a testament, it has to be, to Clint Kubiak. It has, because it is essentially the same cast of characters. Yes, you've made a change at left tackle. Yes, you don't have Michael Thomas. Kamara's healthy, but it's basically the same group. It's the same rest of the offensive linemen. It's still Derek Carr, still Foster Moreau, Olave, Shaheed, and they were bad most of last year, and they're great now. And you score 15 straight possessions to start the season, Derek Carr, and no one does that in the NFL. Tennessee does that to Murray State and Chattanooga. You don't do that to the Panthers and the Cowboys. It's been incredible to watch, and I kind of buy into the fact that it's real. I don't think they're going 16-1, but I think they're a threat at this point, and I did not think that 2 weeks ago.
And not to, get too far off into fairyland, dreamland here, but you have to make the parallel Clint Kubiak and Joe Brady at LSU, because what you just said. LSU plays Alabama at home in 2018. They get shut out. They don't score a point, 29-0. And then Joe Brady the next year with with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jets, the same cast of characters, same offensive line. They go over there and they score over 40. And
you don't think that was Thad Moss effect coming in there and make?
Well, when Thad Moss got that call on the sidelines and they gave him the catch, I said, "Holy cow! LSU got this call in Tuscaloosa.
They've exercised the demons.
Today might be the day."
It's the same deal. It's a scheme thing, and it's cool because I came into this Saints season thinking it's so boring. The quarterback's boring. The team's old. The coach is going nowhere. They're not terrible to the extent that you're going to be the first pick in the draft next year and draft a new quarterback and restart everything. But they're not going to be really good either. So they're going to go 6-12, and that's just boring. And that's tough to talk about through the months. And now all of a sudden, we're obviously on YouTube, and you can look at the view counts over the last 2 weeks, and it's just skyrocketed. People are fired up, and that's really cool. Philly's coming into a hornet's nest on Sunday. It's going to be crazy in the Dome.
Looking forward to that. Philly somehow lost that game to the Falcons.
They lost because Saquon Barkley couldn't catch the football, and the collateral damage was my football team in fantasy world. Did not win because I lost by 0.8 points with Saquon Barkley. If he just catches it,
that's big collateral damage. Yeah, I turned it off. They were knocking on the door. I'm like, they're milking the clock. They're going to win. And then
all of a sudden, the NFC South looks decent. Tampa's played 2 good weeks. The Falcons go to Philly and win. Cousins looks a little healthier. We thought of it as the worst division in football. It looks decent.
A few more things about the Saints. Alvin Kamara, NFC Offensive Player of the Week. He looks rejuvenated. He's 29 years old. There's a old saying, when a running back hits 30, it's kind of like the graveyard, they're going downhill, but obviously he looks as good as he's ever looked in these first 2 games.
My thoughts on Kamara are this. I'm so impressed with his professionalism because he candidly is not happy with the fact that he doesn't have a contract extension. And he went to minicamp and left a day early to protest that and say, hey, I want to get a deal done. And then most players will hold out. And he said, I'm not going to hold out. I'm here to actually make money, not give it back with fines. I want a new deal. I don't think what I'm asking for is outlandish, but I'm going to play. And he came to practice, and he worked out in camp, and he showed up to work, and he's playing really hard, and he's playing exceptionally well, and he talks about how much he loves the city. And I still don't know if it's the best idea in the world for the Saints to give him a 3-year contract at this age.
Right.
But his professionalism and the way he's handled this, he didn't have to, and it's awesome to see some athletes this day and age do that because you don't see that a lot. You see guys holding out, and I don't fault them for that. There's a lot of money at stake. But for a guy to say, I signed this contract, this organization gave me my first chance, and this city's supported me a lot, I'm going to go play.
And the fans in the city of New Orleans loves Alvin Kamara, and rightfully so, and his popularity has only shot up even more the last couple of weeks. And it's interesting, too, when in the preseason you think about storylines and this needs to happen and that needs to happen for them to be successful. One of the things that I was hearing is that they got to find that third wide receiver. They got to find that third wide receiver behind Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, and they really haven't, and it hadn't been a problem.
They've got like 6 guys, and I don't know who any of them are, and it doesn't matter because Shaheed's catching 70-yard touchdowns, and Olave's a Pro Bowler, and they've gotten Morrow involved a little bit, and Juwan Johnson will come back, and they've gotten Kamara involved. But it's the creativity. I mean, they had a drive back in the game against Dallas where they handed it off to Shaheed twice. They handed it off to Taysom twice. They threw it to Taysom. They hit Foster Morrow in a misdirection play. They ran it with Kamara. I mean, they're just doing all kinds of things. They didn't do any of that last year.
As opposed to last year, I remember that Monday night game they played against the Titans, and I mean, Alvin Kamara's standing there, standing still. He's got 4 guys around him, and Derek Carr's throwing it to him. And I think he had like 13 catches for like 35 yards in the game or something like that. It's like,
and then Taysom would have a day where he had like 12 carries for 56 yards and 2 touchdowns, and the next week he had 3 carries. It's like,
no,
it's just not good.
Was he Keelan Williams? One of those old Les Miles deals, right? It's like, score a touchdown, you're out. Get out of the game.
Or if you fumble, and then we'll see you next month.
Oh, yeah. The fumble thing. That was a felony when the Les Miles deal there. I can't fumble. We kept you long enough. I really appreciate it. Enjoyed the conversation, Hunt. Thanks for coming down.
Thank you, Jacques. Enjoyed my first time in the building. Maybe not wait 15 more years till next time.
Yeah. Let's not wait that long, for sure. So catch Hunt Palmer. Your time is
1 to 3. On 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge, 104.9 here in Baton Rouge as well. And we got a YouTube channel as well.
And then on game day,
Eagle 98.1 in Baton Rouge on the LSU Sports Radio Network, 2 hours before kickoff. Myself, Brandon Taylor, Marlon Favorite, and then 30 minutes after it goes final, you can find us again reacting to it all. They built us a new little studio in the stadium, which is quite nice. So fired up about pre and post game this year.
All right, the season's I think 25% complete. So we still got 75%
75%.
left.
There's your math.
Of the year left. I failed college algebra a few times.
I failed business calculus twice. I took it the third time I passed it. Got a C.
There you go. The math I was just spitting was like, 4th grade stuff, and I almost blew it. Thanks for stopping by, Jacques Talk. We really appreciate your support. We'll see you later.